Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news this Sunday morning, this match day morning. What a game, what a set of games we had in the Premier League yesterday. It's our turn today and a massive game, Eric Ten Hag has called it 10 or 11 cup finals in the Premier League for Manchester United. I completely agree with that. He doesn't want fatigue or tiredness to creep in. We'll talk about that and why we're not picking up as many injuries, because this has been architected, if that is a word, by Eric Ten Hag. But we've also got Eric Ten Hag's summer midfield shortlist, 3 players on that. And we've got this story we're going to start off with in relation to Harry Maguire. So we're going to talk about Harry Maguire first of all, and a loan deal for him that's hitting the news this morning. So lots to get into, but don't forget the big thing today, of course, is Manchester United's trip to Newcastle. We know there was a bit of a scare yesterday that Luke Shaw, Anthony Martial and Sabitzer were not spotted with the squad. Apparently they are all part of the squad. Luke Shaw certainly is as well. So hopefully Manchester United can go and get a result for us today. So we'll have to wait and see. Apologies for being a bit late. There was a tweet that TalkSport had put out about Liverpool from me on the TalkSport show last night. The Mark Goldbridge show last night, if you tuned in, 7:30 till 9 o'clock. I basically had a pop at Liverpool, basically saying that I'd rather have Dick Van Dijk playing at centre-back, who's 97 years of age, than Virgil van Dijk, and that Trent Alexander-Arnold's like a bag of cement. So Liverpool fans, it's not a happy place at the moment for them. But it's all you've got is 7-0, 7-0. Can I just make this really clear? A few weeks ago, losing to Liverpool 7-0 was devastating for Manchester United fans. I give not much of a shit anymore, if I'm being completely honest. I don't really care, because we're third in the league, we've got an FA Cup semi-final and we're still in the Europa League, and they are basically a mid-table club. I will lose to Liverpool 7-0 every season to have the season we're having and them have the season they're having. What a trophy. They're still going on about 7-0. It was embarrassing, it was devastating, but it was 90 minutes and you went and lost to Bournemouth the next week, whereas we went and got into a Europa League quarter-final. So, look, there's levels to this game. It's a small club mentality if you're living off one result. And I get it, it was disappointing, but I'd rather be in our position and take the 7-0, to be honest. Michael George, welcome to Members Club, and Mikael Roach has given us a United Stand membership. Talking about underperforming centre-backs who live off their reputation and not their ability, let's talk about this story breaking this morning it's Sunday morning. It's Sunday morning, people. You get weird stories. So this story is coming in from The Sun, and they're saying that Harry Maguire is wanted by Leicester City on a loan deal next season as they look to shore up their defence. Look, it's not April Fool's. That was yesterday morning. So first of all, we've checked that out. Morning. Did you enjoy the Formula One this morning? Says Liam. I missed it. I watched the highlights when I woke up. I slept through it. But you know what? This Harry Maguire potential loan deal to Leicester, in some ways, it makes sense, because you look at it and you go, well, look, he cost us 80 million quid. He's on £200,000 a week. Who is going to buy Harry Maguire this summer? And I just think that my answer to this is no. We're not loaning Harry Maguire. That is just not going to help Eric Ten Hag rebuild this football club. He's on 200 grand a week. We paid £80 million for him. We can't be loaning players like that out because nobody will buy them. If he's going to be loaned, that means he's got no future. And if he's got no future, you've got to take the hit and move him on. Even if that means taking 20 million quid so that somebody will pay him the wages that he wants. We can't loan players out of that value. It's you're just kicking the ball down the road, and then, well, you're kicking the rubbish down the road, and then it's still going to be there when, next year. We can't. It's the same with Telles and it's the same with Eric Bailly, but it's on a much more expensive rate. Telles and Eric Bailly are finished at Man United. They're likeable. I like Eric Bailly. I don't mind Telles, but they're not part of Ten Hag's plans. So when we loaned them for a year, we're basically wanting that loan deal to put them in the shop window for this summer so that they go. If you loan Harry Maguire out, or Scott McTominay out, or Anthony Martial out, or Van der Beek out, the following summer you're still looking to sell them anyway. And we'll end up paying some of his wages for him to go to Leicester. And ultimately, who are we benefiting here? Harry Maguire needs to play first team football next year because it's the Euros. I don't actually get excited about loaning someone like Harry Maguire or Scott McTominay or Anthony Martial or any other player that realistically, if they're not part of the plans, they need to be sold. This is one thing that the club needs to change. And look, there is no updates on the sale of Manchester United. I'm surprised by that. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the cold, harsh facts are that this football club needs to change its attitude to removing the deadwood and be more ruthless. It's not Ten Hag's fault. He didn't buy any of these players. So if they're not part of the plans, if I'm a director of football, I've got to be doing my job and saying to the board, look, these players are not part of the plans. They're on big wages. Ten Hag didn't buy them. He needs to get the players in he wants. And look at the success we're having. Look at the interest we're having. We need to move this player out. Yes, we're going to take a loss, but it's the last regime's mistake. We can't, it's like an infection, isn't it? Are we going to cut it out and let it heal, or are we going to let it spread? And we've got to cut it out. And there will be a bit of pain, and there will be a bit of a scar, but ultimately we'll be healthier for it in the long run. So I don't see the benefit of a loan deal other than for the player in the club who gets the loan deal. I don't. I think you've got to move him on. But I'll go back to what I've said before. I don't think moving on Harry Maguire is going to be very easy because, his Wikipedia page is on sneak at the moment. Like, it's never had a trophy on it in its bloody life, and now it could have 2 or 3 in the space of 3 months, even though he probably won't start any of the finals. So, he's onto something here, isn't he? I don't think he's ambitious enough to ask for a move out of Man United anyway. And I don't think we should be loaning him because I don't think that benefits us. He goes to Leicester for a year, runs his contract down by a year again, and then comes back and says, I'd like to have another go at United at 31. And then we're back where we are. So Luke says, well done, Mark, hitting the Scousers where it hurts. Don't loan Fathead, sell him. For the love of God, sell him, says Luke. Look, if we end up loaning him, it solves a problem, but it kicks the problem down the road. I personally would like to see an ownership at Manchester United that walk in and say to Erik Ten Hag, who do you want to get rid of? And Erik Ten Hag says, well, I want to get rid of this player, and this player, but I know I can't because of the finance. And then I want the owner to say, screw that. There's debt we've got to clear. There's a stadium we've got to build. And there's infrastructure we've got to pay for. Don't worry about us paying off a few players to get rid of them. If you want them out of the club, let's get rid of them. We've seen Barcelona do it. We've seen Chelsea do it. Get rid of them. It's not your job, Eric, to worry about whether we can sell players or not, or whether you've got to loan them. If they're not part of your plan, we'll take the hit and we'll get rid of them. We'll find a way of getting rid of them. I'd not loan back to Leicester on principle after they took us for fools. In fact, no loan, buy or get out, says Rory. And Mark, looking good and glad to be watching your shows again after being away for a while now. Been missing the good content you've been putting out, says Dennis. I hope you're doing well, mate. I hope your absence wasn't anything sinister to do with ill health or anything like that. But good to have you back. Right, okay. So look, that's one story. It sort of feeds nicely into another story from yesterday, actually, about Scott McTominay, and I forget where it came from, but there was a story yesterday. Oh, I wish I could remember where it came from because it was quite decent. And they were saying that the likelihood of Scott McTominay leaving this summer is actually quite low. He's very well liked within the club, and being a youth player, there's that reluctance to sell him on in the summer, even if he struggled a little bit this season. I mean, Paul Scholes this week, I saw a quote. I presume it's true. He described him as a top class player, and I think, look, this is a well trodden path, and I'm not going to let it ruin my croissants and coffee I'm about to have after this show on a Sunday morning. I want to chill and read the papers and stuff like that. But he's not a top class player. He's not a top class player. It's sentimental. It's sentimental nonsense. We've got locked into this magneticism or whatever it is, where if someone's come through the youth team now, we're reluctant to let them go, but we always did. Sir Alex Ferguson always did. You're given a chance as a young player, and if you're not good enough, you're sold to West Brom. It's as simple as that. There's teams that want McTominay. He ain't good enough. He's not good enough. He's a cameo player at best. He's not good enough to play for Manchester United. And I hope he proves me wrong today, because I think he will start because he's tall. But, I mean, at the end of the day, that sentence in itself it's offensive. He's going to play because he's tall. His mum and dad produced a child that was tall. That's why he's going to play today. Genetics. I mean, that's not. He's going to play today because he's tall. Because we haven't got Casemiro, and our midfield is very small, so we need someone tall in there. I mean, that's the peak of your career. You get picked because you're tall. It's not the foundation for a Man United player, is it? So look, I think Scott needs to go and play elsewhere. I think, like Maguire, he's got to be ambitious, but, sometimes players get too comfortable. It's Manchester United. We're Manchester United. I want to stay at Manchester United because it's a great club to be at. The fans are fantastic. The hype, everything's amazing. I've been here since I was 12, But actually, when you're 42, you'll look back at it and go, I should have gone and played for Newcastle when I was 26. That's what you'll look at. And it's whether these players can accept that or whether they're just happy to pick up a wage and hang around with their mates, because there's no doubt that McTominay and Maguire are well liked within the squad, but as I said, there's been some right arseholes that have played for Man United that weren't liked. I mean, Sheringham and Cole didn't get on at all and they won a treble. Do we need... Look at England. All the England players love playing for England. They love Southgate because it's an easy ride and they're all good mates. And yeah, they do well in qualifiers and they bottle it in a major tournament. Like, nice doesn't always win first prize, does it? As somebody said to me, nice guys don't go in with the prom queen. And that's a very sexist old line, but ultimately, it's true. Because it's an old line. The reality is, nice guys don't necessarily get the girl. You could say nice girls don't necessarily get the girl now, or boys don't get the boys. Whatever. The point remains the same. Make the joke a little bit more equal, but the reality is the same. Nice guys, nice women don't always get the prize, do they? Or should have said nice thems. This is one season where we can't afford to loan players. We need all the funds we can because of FFP. Yeah, Glennie, you've absolutely nailed it there, 100%. So, I don't think Maguire's going to leave in the summer. And by the sounds of it, I don't think McTominay's going to leave in the summer. And there is, as Glennie says, there's about 60 million quid there that allows us to bring people into the team. We need to be ruthless in the summer, but I tell you what, that will be dictated to by the ownership. The ownership have got to give the manager... Well, no, it's not even the manager. The owners have got to be ruthless. If I'm the owner of Man United, right, I'm having a meeting with Eric Ten Hag. I'm a fan of the club. I know it really well, and Ten Hag's the man who's the man. So I sit Ten Hag down and I go, look, Eric, I'm the owner of this football club. You're the manager. You tell me no, and I will back you. But I look at this team and I go... Maguire needs to be sold. We've got to do something about Martial because his injury record's ridiculous. McTominay needs to go. What do you want to do with Fred? What we're going to do at right back? What we're going to do with Donny van der Beek? And what we're going to do about long-term Sancho, Garnacho, Pellistri and Anthony? Because ultimately, I think we only need 2 or 3 of those. Talk to me. Don't brush it under the carpet. And if he says, well, I'd love to get rid of Maguire and Martial this summer, leave it to me. I'll sort it. Don't worry about the money. I'll sort it. And that's the sort of ownership we need. I just can't get my head around the fact that Maguire is still the club captain. The club should move him on with many other players not good enough to do the job for the club, says Attic. I think it's one of the most... Mark, could you go through your ideal summer transfer window? We'll talk about that in a minute, Adam, actually. It sort of feeds into what I want to talk about, Ten Hag's 3-man midfield summer list. But one of the most interesting aspects of the summer transfer window for me, and we've been waiting for this for years, is our approach to removing the deadwood. We've always been quite good at bringing players in, but we've been very bad at removing players on. So we basically just... What we tend to do is we create space in the 25-man squad by loaning players out. Look, Tellez went, Bailly went, Henderson went. That's 3 spots in the squad straight away. This summer we've got to... Ten Hag needed to buy players in summer 1. Summer 2, he needs to buy players, but he also needs to sell players. He's had a year looking at them. I think this is going to be one of the most interesting things to observe, is can we move players out? Because I've been told in the past, and this is an important thing to bring in, you know how we're bad at recruitment and we're considered to be a bit of a joke in the industry, like clubs and agents see Man United as a circus and they see us coming and they boost the price up and they, agents make lots of money out of us, clubs make lots of money out of us, and the player that comes to us makes lots of money out of us. Look, we all think that these players are holding up the shirt going, oh, I love Man United, I love Man United. Most of the time, they're going from 20 grand a week to 200 grand a week. So the player is rinsing us as well. They want to come, but they definitely get their slice of the cake. So they see us coming a mile off. We get ripped off every time we do a transfer. But, and I was told this a couple of years ago, we also get ripped off the other way. You've got the player who's got a Man United contract, and you've got United saying to that player, and you think about them over the years, there's been a few that we've not been able to get rid of for years. And I can think of 6 or 7 names straight away. Some of them are still here, some of them aren't. So United get ripped off the other way because they'll go to this player and they'll go, look, you're not part of the plans, you need to find a club. And that player will go, you gave me a 5-year contract on 100 grand a week, you need to find me a club because I'm not going to start wasting my time trying to find a club that's going to pay me 100 grand a week, because they're not going to do it, and I'm not taking a pay cut. And United will go, well, you're not part of the first team plans. And the player will go through their agents, well, deal with it. It's your problem, because I'm not going to take a pay cut to go and play first team football. I won't even get half of 100 grand a week anywhere else. So you find me a club, or you let me go on a free. And United are bad at both ways. We're bad at recruitment. We get rinsed by the player, the agent and the club. And we're bad at removing players, because the player and their agent will say, hold on a minute, you gave us a contract. It's 100 grand a week. We're not taking a pay cut. Of course we want to play first team football. And it's very obvious we're not going to play first team football here. But you find a solution. And that solution normally is Man United will loan them out and still pay their wages. So it's a less well-trodden story, but it is a story. And United have had this problem for years. These players they want to move on have got more power than the club, and they'll say, no, I'm not taking a pay cut, and I'm not finding a club. You find me a club, or you let me go on a free so I can still get my wages. And this is why they end up being here for ages. So it's going to be a very interesting process, because I think it comes from strong management. Attic, we've done your super chat. Thank you very much for that. Somebody just said anything about the news on the United sale. It's dead quiet. I mean, as I said, Friday morning show, didn't I? I was told from pretty good people that United, we were expecting news on Friday. It's not happened. Sunday morning, I thought maybe. It's very, very clear that United are holding this back till next week now, so we'll have to wait and see. But look, it's overdue. There's news on this sale of Man United that's overdue. Personally, I think it will be another round of bids, but even that, it's still news, isn't it? Mark, where does Cantona rank for you all time amongst United greats? Top 5, top 10? Don't think he gets enough credit these days, says Jacob. To be honest with you, I think Cantona's just about... personally, I know that I've got people like Roy Keane and Cristiano Ronaldo, David Beckham. I'd say Cantona's probably 5 for me in my top 5, Jacob, because he had a massive part to play. Of course he did. Anyway, back to the news. Thanks everyone who's watching. Make sure you smash a like, and don't forget we've got our watch along. We're back tonight. We're back this afternoon at 3:30 with the team news for a 4:30 kickoff. But look, there's another story about Erik ten Hag's trio. His midfield shortlist. 3 players that Ten Hag wants this summer, or he won't get all 3, but the 3 players he wants: Jude Bellingham, Frenkie de Jong, and Declan Rice. This is coming in from the Mail. Michael says we need to stop buying or taking loanees who are slow, like Maguire and Weghorst, and during our transfer windows, small mistakes cost us all season long, says Michael Murray. So, de Jong, we know, very difficult deal to do. Keeps saying he doesn't want to leave Barcelona. Barcelona would be stupid to sell him, but maybe they need to financially because he's their top earner. Jude Bellingham, who apparently is going to go to Man City. And then Declan Rice, who, to me, is massively overpriced. I mean, look, you can't judge a player because they're in a relegation battle, but I've seen a lot of West Ham this season, and I think Rice has been bang average. It'd be very interesting to see if we end up signing one of those 3 players, though, because their quality isn't in doubt. And my preference is De Jong, which I think is the same as Erik ten Hag. I want Man United to get De Jong, but we spent all summer on it last summer and we didn't do it. This summer, I don't know whether it's possible. I think we need to figure out whether it's possible very quickly, and if it's not possible, we move on from it. In relation to Bellingham, I think you'd have to be a complete idiot not to want Jude Bellingham, but with no ownership done, it's very hard to get in a race for Jude Bellingham when Real Madrid, Man City, and potentially even Liverpool are negotiating with his agent at a good price, at a good level, and it's very advanced, and we're not even in the race because we can't be in the race. How can we be in the race for Jude Bellingham? We haven't sorted out the sale. The Glazers won't want to spend that sort of money. And it's very interesting what Erik ten Hag said in his embargoed press conference, actually. He said about money, it doesn't necessarily stop you being successful. And this was massive red flag for me, because this was value in the market bullshit. He basically said, at Ajax, we didn't have a very big budget comparative to lots of other clubs in the Champions League, but we were still able to compete and go to the latter stages, even though we didn't have the budgets of other people. That is not what I want Man United manager to be saying. And I hope that that's not going to become a new theme, because Ten Hag has actually been quite open in his first few months of the club about how you've got to be able to invest like the Man Cities of this world, like the PSGs of this world. You have to keep investing. He was talking about it in January. He spoke about it in the summer. And that's always been the stance of Erik ten Hag. If he's now going to start saying, well, money's not that important because you can still achieve, that's not really what he's been talking about. So why would he... I'm hoping it was just an answer to a question that was phrased in a certain way, because I think Ten Hag knows he's got to spend money. But, you know, is he already mentally preparing himself for a challenging summer if the sale doesn't go through? He spoke in January about the sale and said it would be a positive because we need investment. He's now talking in April saying that you don't necessarily need money to be successful. Is that a sign that things are not going the way we want it to for this summer transfer window already? Or is it just a throwaway comment about a question he was asked? We'll have to wait and see over the next few weeks. But we have got a manager that knows he needs to invest. And if he now starts talking about other things, then we'll have to wait and see. Just Pip says, more hearsay from Mark as usual. Just Pip, why don't you piss off and go for a walk, you sad idiots? I've literally just quoted the manager from his press conference. Get a dictionary, shove it up your arse, and while it's there, read what hearsay means, because hearsay does not mean reading out somebody's quotes. Hearsay means hearing something that you can't evidence and using it as evidence. So you've made yourself look a complete and utter idiot this morning, Just Pip. I'm sorry to do it, but it's a news show. I think everyone gets very tired with people like you who come on and make out that the United Stand News Show is made up, when everything we talk about is sourced. And that's a direct quote from the manager. You've had a stinker, Just Pip. In fact, I'm going to rename you. You're not Just Pip, you're Just Pratt. That's idiotic, mate. You found a word that you think you know what it means, and then you've exposed yourself. It's not hearsay when we're quoting directly the manager. Hearsay is something that you've heard as a rumour and you take as a fact. It's a direct quote, mate. A direct quote. Poor old Just Pratt. He's had a nightmare. Appreciate you, says Karen. Thank you very much. Yeah, so look, I don't like the idea of the manager talking about not needing money to be successful, because you do need money to be successful. But I would imagine Erik ten Hag is as frustrated. Well, he'd be more frustrated than you and me, because he'll be going in January thinking all this money's going to come in, and now in April he'll be going. He'll be being told. Ten Hag will be being told by Arnold that you can't get Bellingham, and you might struggle to get De Jong because we haven't got the money yet, Eric. So that he's already talking to Man City. He's already talking about a new deal. We can't offer them anything because we don't know what the future is. So you can understand that Ten Hag probably will get frustrated at some point. Which brings me on to, I mean, look, out of Declan Rice, Frankie de Jong and Jude Bellingham, who would I want? I think most of you would want Bellingham. I would still want de Jong because it's the player that Ten Hag's obsessed with. If we don't get taken over by the summer, I don't think we'll get any of them. I don't think we've got the finance under the Glazers to buy any of those three players. I think the priority will be a striker. I think if the Glazers stay, we'll buy Harry Kane and that'll be about it. I don't think they've got more than £100 million to spend. So I think the midfielder will be sacrificed if we don't get new ownership. So I think it's all a little bit hypothetical at the moment. But the frustrating thing is there's so many strikers available in this summer transfer market, and there's so many midfielders available in this transfer market. We've spoken about the United sale. Akmal, please turn up on time. Hi Mark, greetings from Sydney, Australia. For strikers, do you think we could get both Højlund and Ferguson together? What are your thoughts? Hodgie fits in with what I've just said there. Fits in with what Ten Hag has said. There's not a lot of money to buy players in the summer at the moment because we're still owned by the Glazers. Add all the debt up, it's nearly £1 billion. We need to spend over $1 billion on a stadium. There's no money under the Glazers. So we can't really talk about who we're going to buy until we get the ownership sorted. And at the moment, the ownership, it's April. We were meant to be bought by now. For 2 months, from November to January, we were told the sale would be done by the end of March. Hello, I'm April. We're still under the Glazer ownership and there's no plan on when this deal will be done. We're drifting as a football club into a massive summer transfer window where we don't have the new owners. Just ahead of the games tonight, Erik ten Hag has spoken about these games. Now, a couple of things quite interesting about this. First of all, he said that it's 11 cup finals. plus whatever we do in the FA Cup and the Europa League. He wants his players to be focused on that. And he's absolutely right. I think it's a massive game later on. I can't wait for it. I think it's a huge game for Manchester United. But he's also been, there was also an article, I think, in The Athletic about how he's managed to reduce the amount of hamstring and muscle injuries that have plagued Manchester United really for the last decade. And this is all to do with data that he requests from the fitness and conditioning teams that monitor the players so that when they hit their, if you've ever played Football Manager, you know exactly what we're talking about. You get these players who play games, and then you can almost see that their body's in the red zone where they, you know, if you keep playing them, there's a high risk that they're going to pick up a hamstring or a muscle injury. So Ten Hag has accessed and requested this data, which has never really been done by any previous manager. And surprise, surprise, we're now not picking up as many injuries like that. In fact, most of the injuries we've picked up or suspensions are out of the hands of anybody. It's just fate, isn't it? You know, Casemiro's suspensions, as dubious as they are, they're nothing to do with injury. Donny van der Beek's injury would have probably ended anybody's season. It would have ended Bruno's season. It's not because, you know, Bruno never gets injured, but if he'd had that tackle that Donny had or Eriksen had, I think he probably would be injured. There's nothing you can do about those two, to be honest with you. So we're not picking up hardly any, touch wood, muscle hamstring injuries compared to how we have, and a lot of that is down to Ten Hag and the way that he's monitoring his players. And the article goes on to say that Ten Hag is determined to keep his team fit and fresh because he doesn't want that to be an excuse in these critical last few weeks of the season, where if players start to feel tired, they can use it as an excuse to let their levels drop. He was very much about players who weren't part of the international duty getting some good rest mentally and physically for these next few weeks. So it's going to be very interesting today, isn't it? Because you've got quite a few players that didn't go on international duty. You've got Marcus Rashford, you've got Wan-Bissaka, you've got David De Gea, you've got Rafael Varane. Trying to think who else didn't go. Fred didn't go either. Martial didn't go. Jadon Sancho didn't go. So we've got a good set of players that are in or around that first team who really should be ultra fresh and ready to go, because Newcastle will be today. Since we're linked with Declan Rice, what's your favourite rice-based meal? Mine's basmati rice with butter chicken on the side and a naan. Well, I actually, if we're talking about rice dishes, I quite like a good chilli with rice, to be honest with you. Nathan Allen, thank you very much. He says, I know you're Potter in. They've had 25 shots and missed like 3 sitters. You can't blame the manager for that, and conceded by a mistake and a screamer. I'm going to do a video on that on That's Football, but obviously this is United Stand. Garlic rice, Uncle Ben's rice, the slow spoots, and paella. Paella's nice. Mark, have you ever been to Australia, and would you consider a United Stand tour in Australia? Come to Sydney, says Hodgie. I think if we could do a couple of dates in Australia, that would be a nice reason to come over there, but because I've never been, so that would be great, definitely. But look, whiz through the news this morning. Lots going on. Adam's road trip is back. I think we'll put up that about 1 o'clock, and then I'm going to be live at 3:30. So loads going on. Quite a lot going on in the news this morning. Red flags. Maguire needs to be sold, not loaned. I don't like Erik Ten Hag talking about doing well without money. I think that's a frustration thing from him because he's wondering what's happening with the sale. Another day without an update on the sale is a little bit frustrating. And every summer transfer target we talk about, I think anybody's achievable if we're owned by Al Thani. I think nearly nobody's achievable if we're still owned by the Glazers, and that's something that doesn't sit nicely. If we were under new ownership, I think anything's possible. If we're under this ownership, I think anything's impossible. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. I hope Sabitzer starts today, Salah, but I think we'll see McTominay start because he's tall. I'll be very surprised if Sabitzer's not on the bench today. Take care, everyone. Make sure you smash a like on the video on your way out. And don't forget, we'll be live at 3:30. We're back. The watch-along is back. Can't wait for it. Speak to you all in a